Kính chào quý vị, chiều nay chúng ta sẽ tiếp tục được nghe một câu chuyện về cái sự tiến triển của cái phòng thương mại người Mỹ gốc Mễ Hispanic Chamber of Commerce tại San Jose. Và khách của chúng ta chiều hôm nay là ông Dennis King, là CEO của Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Hôm trước chúng ta được dịp để học nghe sơ về ông ta, về cái sự dấn thân của ông ta vào trong những cái dịch vụ giúp ích cho cộng đồng. Như là ông ta đã từng đi học ở trường Foothill De Anza College, rồi ông cũng đi học trường San Jose State University, rồi ông ta cũng làm việc cho supervisor McCorkadale, và ông tham gia những cái chương trình mà như là đổi cái bộ luật mà từ 21 tuổi xuống 18 tuổi thì có quyền đi bầu. Đó là những cái chương trình rất là quan trọng, và ông ta là người nhìn thấy cái cuộc cộng đồng của chúng ta lớn mạnh trong vòng 50 năm qua. Tại vì lúc đó ông cũng đã San Jose, và đó là đợt đầu tiên người Việt của mình đến Hoa Kỳ này, đến San Jose này. Cho nên những cái kiến thức đó Sam nghĩ rằng là rất là có ích cho cộng đồng của chúng ta để theo dõi. Nhưng mà chúng ta sẽ nói nhiều hơn trong cái tiếng Anh. Hy vọng rằng là đây cũng là dịp để quý vị rèn luyện cái tiếng Anh của mình thêm qua cái cuộc nói chuyện này. Thành ra chúng ta sẽ có anh Hồng Cao với chúng ta, và chúng ta sẽ có nghị viên của Hội đồng thành phố District số 7 là anh Biên Đoàn. So Mr. Dennis King, thank you for being here and share with us more. I know last time we talked, we know that you did spend most of your life in San Jose, and that you went to Foothill De Anza College and San Jose State University, and were a student president, association president for both institutions, and that you have championed the Amendment 26th
Amendment,
which is to change the voting age from 21 to 18. And also that you have been involved with county work under Supervisor McCorkadale, as well as many institutions here. And you've helped the development of the Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce in their early days also. So let's talk a little bit more about the growth of Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and then how did you work with other communities, and share with us the growth of the little history of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the growth. I know that you were involved with the San Jose Chamber of Commerce, which is the largest Chamber of Commerce and the most powerful Chamber of Commerce in San Jose, I would say, because they became the force for business voice, and the fights for all elections in the county as well as the city here are mostly between labor versus business. And San Jose Chamber of Commerce really most of the time represent the voice of businesses. Is that correct?
You have a phenomenal memory, Sam, so I don't know whether to, I certainly compliment you for remembering, wondering if I was in trouble. You went through a long list of things. So it's been my honor to be very involved with the lots of different activities and organizations since my student government days over 50 years ago here in San Jose. Usually behind the scenes. I don't usually jump in front of the camera. So it's a little odd for me to be able to do this, but I'm among friends, so I appreciate the conversation. Mm-hmm. I still am on the board of the San Jose Chamber. I probably...
Do they call that the Silicon Valley organization, or they're back to San Jose Chamber of Commerce?
Well, it's now actually back to San Jose Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Yes.
Officially.
And it's gone through some changes, as we all have, over the years. I've been serving on the board for now just over 16 years.
16 or 60?
16. I'm not that old.
Yeah, okay.
I'm working on it. Not quite that old. Okay. Nobody else I know has served anywhere close to that time. So
16 years.
Able to. This is my last year, on the board. I hope to continue to be active, but not necessarily as a board member. They're certainly going through a great transition right now. Leah is doing a wonderful job of trying to patch the holes in the ship in terms of trying to get the ship moving and to going in a good direction. It certainly has experienced things due to COVID and due to politics. So I think they've learned to take a more moderate position and being very proactive in terms of economic development. So I'm still optimistic in terms of its future. But it does, like we all have challenges. A good part of to recognize the difference. When I first joined the chamber was after I was leaving working for Supervisor McCorkadell in the 1970s. San Jose had half the population it has now, and the San Jose Chamber at the time had over 3,000 members. Then I got very actively involved in the development of the international program as a volunteer. And it was a great opportunity for me to reach out to our diverse communities to kind of bring people together. And that was the first time I saw the first beginnings of a Vietnamese American chamber. The Black Chamber of Commerce had been started not long before that. The Hispanic Chamber had started back in the 50s, but it was more of a Mexican-American social organization. So it started to get much more proactive in education and training and advocacy later on, and that's about when I got more involved in it. There were other organizations around that really reflected the community. So one of the major changes since then, since the 1970s, is not just the doubling of the population, but the diversity of the population. So back in 1970, the census at that time said that the population for Santa Clara County was 84% white. 84% white. The last census had indicated it's closer to 34% white. So with a bigger population, but much more diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking too long. I should.
Very good, very good. Yeah, maybe anh Hồng Cao can help out.
Thì để tôi có thể tóm tắt là anh Sam cũng có giới thiệu lại ông Dennis King á. Ông là một người mà có thể nói là ông tham gia và dấn thân ở trong cái ngành lĩnh vực mọi sinh hoạt của San Jose là rất là lâu ở trong những cái phòng thương mại của người Mễ hoặc người Hispanic. Và đồng thời ông cũng có thể nói là ông cũng đã làm việc với lại bên phòng thương mại của bên San Jose. Thì cái xuất thân của ông thì anh Sam cũng giới thiệu, ông cũng đã từng là học ở trong Foothill College và ông cũng là học ở trong tốt nghiệp ở bên trường San Jose State, mà tại cả hai cơ quan đó ông cũng là những người mà lãnh đạo ở trong những cái nhóm sinh hoạt ở trong đó. Thì trở lại ông King thì ông có nói là trong cái thực sự ra thì ông cũng có đóng góp làm việc cho bên cái phòng thương mại mà nó gọi là Silicon Valley, mà San Jose Silicon Valley Commerce thì là cũng đã 16 năm ông làm việc ở đó. Trong cái vấn đề đó thì ông đã chứng kiến
là trong hội đồng quản trị,
ở trong đó, ở trong cái Silicon San Jose Silicon
Chamber of
Commerce thì ông đã chứng kiến có những cái thay đổi từ những cái bước đầu tiên là khi Santa Clara này là những người mà thuộc loại dân Mỹ trắng thì khoảng 84%, mà cho tới bây giờ thì nó cũng đã đi xuống còn có khoảng 30 mấy % thôi. Thì ông chứng kiến những cái thay đổi, những cái mà nó kêu là diversity, tức là có rất nhiều nhóm dân thiểu số khác từ từ cũng gia nhập vô trong cái cộng đồng này, mà trong đó là như chúng ta biết là có cái người Việt Nam từ những khoảng sau năm 1950 tới đây thì ông cũng đã tích cực, ông đã là cái người cũng đã giúp đỡ và cũng có thể nói là ông hướng dẫn cho những cái tổ chức như vậy. Và ông tin tưởng là những cái sự mà đóng góp của những cái người dân mà tị nạn thiểu số là cộng chung lại đó là sẽ là tiếng nói và giúp đỡ cho cái sự phát triển. Và trong cái lĩnh vực của ông là cái người mà trong cái hội đồng quản trị của bên cả hai phòng thương mại của bên Hispanic và của bên San Jose mà Silicon Chamber of Commerce, thì ông đã có giúp để phát họa những cái đường lối, những cái chính sách để mà nó thích ứng được với lại những cái nhóm sắc dân khác tới đây gia nhập và để mà phát triển cho toàn cái khu.
Với lại ổng là hồi xưa đó là ổng đã cạnh tranh cho cái người đi bầu từ 21 tuổi xuống tới 18.
Đi bầu là anh tranh đấu cho cái đó. Tranh đấu.
Were you part of the group that not only fought for the younger generation from 21 to 18, but also for women rights to be able to vote too as well? I remember that.
Well, not necessarily to vote, but certainly among many other rights.
The rights for women to vote started in 1920. 1920 is when they had the amendment
in the Constitution. Because when you change it, it's a big issue. Because as you know, if you want to change it, we don't amend it. It take a lot of steps, The whole state, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It takes a 3/4
And
vote.
it's not a very easy job, and I congratulate you.
So you were asking about the women's right to vote, and he was involved into what extent? During the 70s, I remember it was the Equal Rights Amendment.
A number of the people that work with me on advocating on behalf of the 26th Amendment advocated the next amendment, which was the Equal Rights Amendment. And it did pass Congress, but it takes not only a 2/3 vote of Congress, both houses, but then it takes 3/8 of the states need to support it. And so then was a campaign for ratification. And for the Equal Rights Amendment, they were making a lot of progress in the first few years, then it slowed down, and ultimately it stopped one state short of being able to ratify the constitutional amendment. So that one state short stopped it. Then the Congress voted to renew, to give them an additional 8 years, but there were no new ones since then. So much
but the main point of the Equal Rights Amendment is what?
Well, the Equal Rights Amendment was particularly targeted for women to deal with a wide variety of educational issues, health issues. The economic issues dealt with pair disparities between men and women, but a whole lot of other things. So for example, we take it for granted about women wearing jeans, for example, to college today, but back in the 60s there were dress codes. Women of all ages, if they were to go to college, it was part of the rules on the campuses, on your campus. Evergreen came a little bit later, but San Jose City College, Foothill College, women were required to wear dresses. And it's not just the requiring of dresses, but just the whole attitude of women go this way, men go that way, and and that meant for careers. I mean, women didn't get into automotive, they didn't get into building construction. I mean, there was a preconceived role for women going in this direction, and a preconceived roles for men to go in a different direction. And what came as a result of so many things that was occurring, the youth revolution in this country, and so many other cultural things, including advocacy on youth, on the youth suffrage movement, to lower the voting age to 18. It gave people to look at things differently. At San Jose State, the dormitories there were the men's dorms, and then there were the women's dorms. So when I was there as a student for the first time, they started having men and women in the same dorms. And that was very scary for a lot of people.
What year is it?
Well, that was
the 70s.
In the late 60s, and my experience in 1970.
Oh wow! So, it's by that time still had to combinate.
Just women and just men. If they ever met, it was never official. So, and
is it any related with the NOW?
and
the organization for the woman.
Now and
well, there were a
No.
lot of different groups, including women's groups. The League of Women Voters, for example, kind of
That's-
grew out of
Mhm.
the women's efforts to change the Constitution
Mhm.
for them to be able to vote. But even when that happened back in 1920, when it finally happened, there were still a number of states on their own
Yeah.
that
You know,
acknowledged women.
I'm very surprised because I'm graduate from San Jose Tech, and you're talking about, from 1980, I only about 10 years, after that. But I never know, by that time, still have any discrimination between, like you said, man, woman, different door or something. That's a very, very weird,
Well, I hate to say it, but discrimination is not over
Oh,
by
yeah.
any means.
Well, I heard about the discrimination about like the hiring, the salary, like Sam said, the salary and something else. But by that's I my mind just thinking about race, like way back to the Luther King, the black and the white or something. They have different, they cannot go to birth together. Some sitting here, some sitting there. But the first time I heard about that.
Well, it's shocking when you look back at it, because it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Of
Yeah.
course, for younger people, it's like the generation before, but not terribly long before you went to San Jose State.
Yeah.
It was the vast majority of students were white students.
Yeah.
In 1972, 1973, in my student government days, 95% of the student population, 95% were white.
Which school is it?
San Jose State.
San Jose State
Wow.
University.
Right.
That was in the, what did you say, 70s or
1972.
1972?
Wow.
Yes.
95% white.
Yes. And in my year, I was quite honored when I was student body president. Of the 20 students, 17 of the 20 students that got elected that year called themselves third world students.
Yeah.
And they were made up of Asian Americans, African Americans, and Latinos. For the first time in the history of the San Jose State. And keep in mind, San Jose State is certainly one of the oldest institutions of education in California. And so
Third
all that
world
changed
students.
within our lifetime.
It's interesting when they call us third world students. Today, that's not going to work.
No.
And just to have a sense of discrimination that is so distinct and so clear. That is your call, thưa quý vị, third world có nghĩa là những cái nước nhược tiểu, là chậm tiến đó, là quốc gia đệ tam quốc gia đó, chứ không phải là đệ nhất quốc gia. Thành ra nếu mà trong thời quý vị chúng ta đến từ nước Mỹ từ trong thập niên 75 đó, thập niên 70 đó, thì là chúng ta được coi là những người mà từ dân đệ tam quốc gia, chứ không phải là dân Mỹ, không phải là dân mà giống như có nghĩa rằng là công dân hạng nhì, hạng ba, chứ không phải là công dân hạng nhất. Đó là những cái sự kỳ thị mà từ ngày đó mà tới bây giờ mình không có những ngày đó. Bởi vì những cái bộ luật, because of all these all the fights for equal rights, right? Equal rights is so important, and like you say, discrimination still happen. As long as we're human, there's going to be discrimination. If it's not based on race or religion, it's going to be based on age, or it's going to be based on sexual orientation, or gender discrimination. But particularly that, discrimination among the rich and the poor, which neighborhood you come from, as long as human, if we don't have laws that enforce that, then we will not have the kind of quality of life that we have today because of those four laws. So that's the fights for even voting, like you mentioned, from 21 years to 18 years. That bring in like maybe millions of young people to participate in the voting. That was the age discrimination in a way.
Of course.
You eliminate a group out and you only include a group from 21 years and older. So that's the form of discrimination, and those fights that was for equal rights, like you mentioned. It's all about equal rights, là quyền bình đẳng đó. Phải chiến đấu và tranh đấu ngay ở Mỹ này. Rất là nhiều. Thành ra chúng ta có những gì ngày hôm nay, whatever we have today, it's important to be grateful for that, but never take it for granted and never not continue fighting for what's right and fair. That is really a fight worth fighting for, isn't it?
Well, certainly you touched on many truths in your observations, Sam. That's an ongoing process. I mean, there's always conflict with people. We have conflict just within ourselves. The real question is, how do we resolve the conflict? And what had been viewed as the strength of this country is the ability to do it together, democratically, so that through democracy, people could determine how to come up with a compromise that satisfies most people so that we can go forward. That's being threatened now, threatened on a federal level that we've not seen in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So you're absolutely right, we can't take things for granted. Certainly, the history of California shows that there's been discrimination against many ethnic groups along the way. The hope is that somehow through it all we've learned to respect each other. We've learned to come up with processes, and education has been a major vehicle for equalizing our understandings of each other and the value that we have to the overall community. The sadness that I have is to see that I think California is a good story. It's not perfect. We're still moving toward it, but it's certainly much more respectful for different cultures, different religions, and the commonality that we have is the care for our families and the care for overall communities. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that other parts of our nation haven't had that experience yet.
Yeah, you are very correct there, and so let's that's a topic that we can continually talk about and remind each other about into details. But formation, you mentioned that Hispanic Chamber of Commerce began like in the 50s, more on a social sense, and later on became operating like a business. Since I know you about 25, 26 years ago, it ran like a business, a real business. So help us understand about when did you begin to be involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce until now? And then how did it grow? What did you do to help it grow?
Well, any Chamber of Commerce is really based on two significant pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to understand those pillars and what they're all about. Essentially, the pillars deal with advocacy and access. And advocacy, essentially, so that they are advocates of their members and of their communities that they serve. So that there are many times, because of discrimination, because of gaps, that unless somebody stands up and becomes an advocate for them, they're likely to be ignored or exploited. And certainly back in for many years, including the 1950s, 1960s, many of the Mexican American community, Latin American community here felt disconnected, even though they were here long before other cultures. They were overlooked. And when you look at the growth of the city of San Jose, where people tend to go where they are liked and they have things that they can share. So you find clusters of people, like you have a Chinatown or a Japantown, or in various Latino communities, certain gatherings. But the powers that be were very quick to, when it came time to develop property for the city for benefit, they tend to take areas of lower economic areas and plow them over. So there are whole pockets that used to be of strong community strongholds of the Latino community that today are gone, and they've had to move. So they were very strong in a western part of the downtown area. When that got split up, A good number came to East San Jose, some are along Willow Glen, some to other parts of the community. But while that was taking place, somebody had to stand up to say, hey, let's be fair. How do we handle these conflicts? How do we look out for each other? And chambers of commerce, fundamentally, it's good to have individuals to kind of lead the way, but there is no chamber of commerce until there's a meeting, until people come together. And when we have a conversation like we're having now, and so we could talk frankly about, well, what about this, or what about that, or the city wants to build, they want to put their ABC building right smack in the middle of our community, and they're going to knock down all the small businesses and houses that are there. That's not fair. Let's find a place that it's not so disastrous. Well, somebody needs to stand up to be an advocate for that, for the advocate for the communities to say, wait a minute, in 1776, one of the mottos was, don't tread on me. One of the early flags of the United States was a flag of a snake. And the warning is, don't step on me as a snake, because I might bite, right? So that was a warning to say we need to be together to stand up for ourselves, to stand up for our community. And that's the beginning. That's the genesis of our Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
But I know, you said you can bring the people together, and but the thing I'm seeing is how can the commerce can get any resource, any funding, and something, how to help them. It's a very important, because acting like you are bringing the people and help them, educate them to know how to get to get the result, how to get the resource to build up the business, something. How can you do it in terms of your connection with the governmental agency?
One lesson is from President Obama. He had a very unusual career path to become president. When he was most active in his college days and right afterwards was as a community organizer. In my college days, I did attend some courses with the same people that trained the organizer who recruited Cesar Chavez. So you learn some basic skills about being honest with people, being direct, but being respectful, to understand where they are individually or what their issues were, and then with respect to try to say, well, what are some steps that can move you closer to what you want or what you need? So back in the early 1970s, with most of the college students locally were white, but what about the other ethnic communities?
So that means in your in your position, or or the commerce, they not only finding the money for the people to build up the business, also you leading, or we educated and helping leading them to find the good way or the good direction. Is right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Both, right?
Because what I love about neighborhood businesses is that they are, to be successful, they have to be engaged in the communities that they serve. So you'll see it's the local businesses that are the advertisers in the high school yearbooks, as an example. The sponsors of the Little League team, or of the high school something, whatever it is. It's frequently not the big advertisers, it's the shops. The shops that are not just selling to the students, but they want to be part of the community, so that it's a struggle to be successful. But for the small shops that recognize they're part of the community, and And we have often, we still take that for granted unless something happens. I mean, so what just recently happened, of course, with COVID, okay? And suddenly, the powers that be, city, county, started to realize that, wow, the local neighborhood restaurants that they used to go to, they're in trouble, or they're gone. The laundromats where I had our clothes cleaned, the various personal service providers, the barber shops, the nail people, suddenly they're going out of business. So suddenly, at least the good news is that government, certainly under the Biden administration, it's locally here, the city council, the board of supervisors, realized they needed to step up. But getting back to your first question on that, Sam, is somebody still needed to be an advocate. And that's where we stepped in. Okay. And when we heard that these various cities, I should say, when the federal government and the state wanted to do grants to help people or give special long-term, low-cost loans, the question is, how do you connect with people? So you can advertise, but it's usually us local chambers, particularly our ethnic chambers, that were day in and day out dealing with the small business owners who were a little skeptical about government, allows us to say, we're on your side, consider these resources. And then some of the cities wanted to go a step further, and some of them wanted to come up with programs that they could help as well. So we were honored to do a number of the small business grant programs of our local communities, including San Jose's. And so we were able to be effective because of the years of being in the trenches with the small business owners and being engaged in the community. So when they hear about something, they want to know what's being said is true.
I think it's, and I just want to step back. The first step is one, you got to get the people to come together in order to unite in a very common cause. Two, from there, you fight for what you believe is right, which is advocacy. And only then you can work through legislature to get the funding in supporting the ideology, how to grow. And I think the Hispanic community have done an incredible job at that and leading right here in San Jose. Our Vietnamese community can learn quite a bit from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in order to build our footing right here in the city of San Jose and the advocacy through the state of California. In the state of California, there are approximately about almost 1 million Vietnamese. And out of those 1 million Vietnamese, there's about 270,000 registered voters. And we continue to thrive in economic, if you will, specifically in the city of San Jose. But we need to build the Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce, just like the Hispanic has done. So therefore, we'll have the representation, the advocacy, and fighting for the funding in order to grow these small businesses. And out of 60,000 small businesses in the city of San Jose, I would have even guessed over 60% or Asian American. And out of that 60%, I would say 20% of it are Vietnamese American, who have successfully contribute tremendously to the economic of the city of San Jose. By having the very structure with a very clear voice of advocacy, only then we'll get the funding that needed for the Vietnamese community right here in the city of San Jose.
So speaking about funding, you began with Hispanic Chamber of Commerce after you were with San Jose Chamber of Commerce, right?
Well,
because you saw a need to
Yes.
help them, right?
Well, I also recognize the reality. What I started to say, this is somewhat a controversial issue, but San Jose, with half the population back when I first joined the chamber, had a population that had a membership of some 3,000. I got involved with the Sister City program, and in part when my best friend died in Vietnam, I felt compelled to have some part of my life dedicated to peace. And I thought Sister Cities was a moderate but proactive effort to recognize the value of diversity and recognize and become a quiet advocate for peace in the world. And so I got very involved in that. And through that, by dealing with the various Sister City programs that were here, I was honored to head that up for a number of years. One of the programs that got started was Dublin, Ireland, under Tom McHenry. And being Irish American, I knew a lot of stories, but I had not been to Ireland by that stage. Of course, I still had relatives there. But when they did their first trip to that, because of our friends on City Council, I joined them on that Sister City trip. And it really opened my eyes, not just of Dublin, but understanding that Ireland is a small country, but it was very well networked with countries all over the world. And the Dublin Chamber of Commerce, the head of it, a man by the name of Tom Cox, we then became very good friends. His daughter was going to Stanford, gave him an excuse to come out here. And when he came out here, he was shocked that there was no international program. San Jose didn't have an international program. The San Jose Chamber, no international program. And yet it was supposed to be world famous with Silicon Valley. And that was a gap. What I had also recognized is that there was a gap, not just on international, but there was a gap locally, that we weren't, our business advocate group wasn't very diverse. But I volunteered, we started an international program, very dynamic program. I mean, our committee meetings, we usually had, between 40 and 80 people at a committee meeting that usually had between 3 and 4 people. And it was bringing together the leaders of the various communities to celebrate each other, to talk about what's going on in their communities. One amazing takeaway for me after doing that for about 4 or 5 years, in the last few years, we had delegations from more than 25 different countries. And not just the obvious big ones, but Bangladesh, Bulgaria. I mean, a number of them that came to Silicon Valley wanting to take a piece of that magic home again. But what amazed me is that every time that we had a delegation from whatever country there was throughout the world, I found local people that was living and working here that was from there. And so it told me that beneath the surface, there's a lot of things taking place. And the challenge was to recognize that and connect that. We haven't done that since. That's still a current challenge.
So what year about when you became the member of the workforce for Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?
Well, the workforce, I volunteered for them for a number of years. And I was successful in getting a grant that they needed help in implementing. So I was then doing international travel a lot, which I enjoyed, but it kind of was disruptive. And they asked me if I would take on the project for a few weeks. And that's what got me started. September 8th, 1998, is I said, yes, I will commit to working full-time for a few weeks.
So 1998, you work for the Hispanic Chamber.
Yes.
But when you involved with the South Silicon,
The Hispanic?
the South Silicon.
Well, there were a couple of different layers. So I joined in the 1970s when I wanted to. leaving the Board of Supervisors, I wanted my own business.
So maybe join
And
with the San Jose before with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Well, when I started doing the international program, which I
Mm.
chaired for the San Jose Chamber,
Mhm.
I started interacting with the various leaders in the community. I was asked to be on the board of the Black Chamber of Commerce, which I did for a number of years. But it was a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that needed some help with a particular program. So this was in '98. The international program for the San Jose Chamber was it was hard to me believe, but it was controversial for them. They didn't quite know what to do with it, so they ended it. And there hasn't been an international program since, which I find amazing.
So
And
share with us about the economic growth of that Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. When you came in, approximately what was the budget, annual budget, and then how did it grow over the years? Just a quick snapshot.
well, there's no logical step by step because you had to kind of go from project to project. It's almost like a general contractor. You get a project here, you do that, and hope you get the next project, and you can't. You know, or like laying bricks one another. And the time frame is not consistent in terms of one on the other. So when I first got involved, I was international, then I became marketing. But I realized that there are a lot of fundamental things that we were not doing. So I was able to recruit some people, we developed a program, and we grew rather dramatically. But that was through its ups and downs. And what I was looking for was, I didn't want to just simply do dinner dances. I didn't want to just do the social activities. We were spending months at the time on a golf tournament, which was nice, but after 5 months we only raised about $1,200. And I felt, no, we needed to do something beyond that. So that's when I started putting together a different strategy to see in terms, remember I was saying there's two pillars. So the one pillar is advocacy. The other pillar was access. And what I saw was in the Latino community and others, that there was a real gap of getting access to money, to capital, to start and grow their businesses. And so I was looking for programs that can help us in a very meaningful way to help people become legally compliant so that their businesses were okay with laws, and being able to accept loans and funding, and then do the loan packaging to help them to get to the next level.
Well, that's great. It's going to the next level. Is probably where we could stop approximately now and have final comments, because we do want to continue this conversation into the next level, into the next session, because it's really important to learn how the organization grow to become such a strong force in the San Jose city, but at the same time, you have been involved with the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which interviewed governor candidates and many major political figures. That kind of a growth and strength is something that we're very proud of, to have a community that really knows how to improve and in terms of advocacy and access for the community and for the less fortunate. And you have been a great force in helping the Vietnamese small businesses during the COVID era. And so we go into those details a little more, but those are such inspirational stories that I think is good not only for the community, but also personally, we benefit from hearing how service becomes valuable like that and impact the community in such a wonderful way. And certainly people at the city council play a very important role in that too. Yes. So you all sit in a very privileged position. Sometimes you think it's not as important,
but those are the voices of advocacy, and you bring the solution to advocacy and access. And that's what we try to do. So let's do that, talk about the future. But in terms of fund development, for me, when I started with the Vietnamese American community of Orange County in 1992 as a volunteer for 6 months, and then I first got a job as a youth counselor for a youth gang in Santa Ana, California, serving the Orange County population there. And through 7 years, I've been able to serve about 400 youth who were involved in gang and trouble families. I became director in a couple of years, and then within 5 years, I became the director of the whole organization. When I first joined that as a counselor, then their annual budget was only about $200,000 a year. By the time I left there in 1999, because I had to move here for my son to be closer to their grandparents, I quit the job there, and 7 years later, we took that organization from $200,000 to over $2 million annual budget, with about 15, 20 employees serving. And that's the kind of story that I want to hear about Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, because that gives the number, and I think your numbers is in the millions. So I think that's something that I'd love to hear. And the challenges come along the way like that. It's just something that every community has to have those advocacy and access providing organizations. So thank you for all your work and your leadership in that. So have a final comment as we close.
I thank you very much because of your heavy, experience in every time. I think for a couple, section you cannot say, cannot talk anything. We will need you for some more time. I would like to learn more, because it's very interesting to see you involved in so many different things, to the low down, the voting aid, to the women right, and to the commerce, everything. And hope to see you sometime and learn some more.
Well, it will be mutual.
Yeah.
It will be
Okay, thank you.
And I think it's important, not only we talk about these things, but hopefully eventually we get to what you call the process. How do we implement that process? And as we talking, we create it. And the proof is in our action and how we make things happen. And I will look forward to your input and many other sessions like this that will propel, or at least evolve, for the Vietnamese community to have a better advocacy in the business and representation in the city of San Jose.
And it will apply to a lot of our personal life as well as business life and community life. So final comment?
Well, I agree with you. A lot of it deals with process. We're at a stage, at least I'm at a stage, that I'm also very sensitive to handing it off. And that is that, God gives us only so much time to be here. We need to be able to hand it off.
Yes.
Not just to the next generation, but all along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anh có
and
thể
that's our
nói
job.
vài lời trong tiếng Việt xong mình closing radio.
Thật ra tôi nói ở đây đó là cái ông King, ông tới đây thì thật ra những cái kinh nghiệm của ông san sẻ đó, thì ông có những cái kinh nghiệm ở rất là nhiều cái lĩnh vực khác nhau, vì ông đã involve rất nhiều ở trong cái community này, từ những cái vấn đề mà ông đòi hỏi những cái quyền lợi để mà hạ cái tuổi đi bầu cử, cho tới những cái quyền của người phụ nữ, cho tới những cái đóng góp của ông không phải trong cái lĩnh vực của trên thương mại của cái địa phương này, mà của cả ở trong cái tiểu bang và liên quan tới quốc gia, và cả nhất là trong những cộng đồng mà của người Hispanic ở đây nữa. Thì chúng tôi mong rằng chúng ta sẽ san sẻ, như người viên biên đoàn có nói là mình sẽ tập hợp những cái đó để mình tạo ra những cái, mình tìm hiểu được những cái kiến thức, những cái process nào để mà giúp cải thiện trong cái vấn đề lĩnh vực về thương mại ở tại cái cộng đồng của chúng ta.
Well, thank you very much, and appreciate your participation. Wonderful conversation, Councilman Member Biên Đoan. and Việt Museum Director Hồng Cao, and CEO of Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Dennis King. I'm just a common man here, so thank you very much all. God bless you.
all wonderful day.
Comment.
Yes.
Okay, we're done.
Okay, thank you.